A popular X Factor singer with a massive social media following is murdered in Colombia after being kidnapped from what was supposed to be a concert and tortured by alleged gang members. His manager was also murdered, but he was able to survive long enough to give some information to police. Even with that vital testimony, there are still so many questions about what happened and why. But here's what we know so far in the case of Zair Guette. Guette is a native of Barranquilla, Colombia. It's a city on the northern coast of the country. In 2021, Guette auditioned for El Factor X. It's the Colombian version of the X Factor. He decided to audition after his grandfather heard him singing in the shower and encouraged him to pursue a career in music. So he started by singing Spanish folk songs, but Guette really got his break with being on the X Factor. He started to be recognized as a real performer. Over the next few years, he amassed 184,000 followers on Instagram and fans from all over the world. He even ended up touring in Italy and in Spain. But his biggest following was right there in his home country of Colombia. And that leads us to reports of what happened before Guette was murdered. According to the Daily Mail, the Vega Daza gang in Barranquilla was passing around this pamphlet with a list of 25 targets. One of the names on that list was allegedly Zair Guette. Again, this has not been confirmed by officials, but it has been reported by outlets like the Daily Mail and 7 News Australia. These reports allege that gang, the Vega Daza gang, believed Guette's career had been financed by the leader of a rival gang, Los Costaneros. According to the Daily Mail, the leader of that gang ordered the murder of 3 members of the Vega Daza gang back in 2023. And that apparently led the Vega Daza gang to seek retribution, and Zair Guette was allegedly caught right in the middle. According to the Daily Mail, Guette had previously faced some threats in Barranquilla, but he apparently spoke with those people and it was all worked out. Then, leading up to his death, he apparently had a contract to perform in Bogota, Colombia. But when he got there, he got a phone call asking him to perform in Cali instead. According to the Daily Mail, it seems like Guette had not been paid for that original contract. So there's now some investigation to determine if this was all a ruse just to kill him. On Friday, February 14th, Guette was found about 30 miles from Cali in the rural town of Ginebra. Guette had taken multiple blows and was found with his hands tied up and a gag in his mouth. According to the Mirror, he'd also been shot in the head. Nearby was his manager, 35-year-old Teddy Guevara, who was miraculously still alive. Guevara said he and Guette had been intercepted by multiple men, then taken to an unknown location where they were tortured. After that, Guevara played dead until help arrived. He was rushed to the hospital where he died on Saturday, February 15th. After news of all this broke, Guette's sister, Zair Guette, posted to social media. A translation posted by the Mirror reads, quote, "They took you from us, and with you, they stole the happiness of an entire family. They've left us with an eternal sorrow in our hearts and music, because I can proudly say you took regional Mexican music to great heights. You achieved so much, not even counting everything you still had planned." This is altogether just a really shocking crime. We have someone who is so young, such a beautiful voice, not deserving of any of this, and we honestly still have so many questions. So we're going to bring on our guest today. That's retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith to talk about the case. And like I said, Tom, we still have so many questions, but there have been rumblings that gang violence might have been involved. What do you think just from the jump?
Yeah, you know what? That part of the world and that region is so incredibly dangerous. And when you get involved with either the wrong people or people perceive you being involved with the wrong people, things can get out of control really quick and become very violent. And the thing is about the people involved, they don't care who you are. They don't care how prominent you are. They don't care that you're on TV. Then none of that matters. What matters is what they think happened or their perception of what happened, and if one of them got wronged or whatever it might be. And that's when these groups get extremely dangerous and things like this happen.
What are some of the tells that this may have been involved in gang violence? We can get into the specifics later, but just generally, how would someone know?
Well, just how it was done. The reporting of being kidnapped, basically being brought to a remote location by many people, not just one or two, it was a group of individuals. Torture methods that we used, and then the way they were executed, tied up, shot, left in a field. Those are all just telltale signs of a gang violence or mob violence or whatever the group may call themselves. But those are all the signs that you look for afterwards.
As you were going through there and talking about all of the tells, as we said, it was just so crazy to hear about all of the details of the case because we have kidnapping, torture, murder. I mean, one of those things alone is terrifying, but combine all three is just wild. Going back to the gang stuff though, there have been some reports, this hasn't been completely substantiated. However, there have been some reports that there was kind of rival gang violence going on, that potentially our victim here, Zair Guette, he may have been funded by one sort of gang and the other gang didn't like that. Is that something that's possible, violence from gang to gang?
Oh, sure. It could be the smallest little detail that one of them thinks, is disrespectful in any way. And that's just not there. That's here as well, in the United States when you have gang rivalries. The smallest little thing can set them off on just this actions of violence. And it gets bad. And down there, it's even more ruthless because there's not a lot of oversight. There's not a lot of, police activity that's overseeing these gangs. The gangs and cartels and terrorist organizations down there, run the country and run the area. So the lawlessness that's down there is so evident and prominent down there. Things like this happen, I don't want to say on a daily basis, but it's happening more often.
Hey, by the way, I know we have a lot of sponsors on Law and Crime, and we appreciate you supporting them and supporting us. But we'd really like to know from all of you, what do you like? We created a 5-question survey that takes less than 30 seconds to fill out. You tell us what kind of brands and products you use so we can make sure to put the right companies in front of you. There's some incentive in all of this too. If you fill out the survey as a thank you, we will randomly select 5 of you and send you free Law and Crime t-shirts. So please fill out our survey at lawandcrime.com/survey. Again, it takes less than 30 seconds and you could get some free Law and Crime merch. I like the use of the word lawlessness because I think it encapsulates what we're talking about here, the fact that these people were able to, at least for now, pull off this crime. There have been no arrests, at least that I've seen reported. They also did this in kind of a rural area. This is something we see even here in the United States, away from ring cameras or witnesses, things like that. Do you think that these perpetrators used that to their advantage? Perhaps there may not have been self-service. There wouldn't be any sort of security camera videos, things like that.
100%. And these groups know exactly where to go. They know what's covered. They know street cameras or cell sites or cell towers or whatever it might be down there. They are very well and educated about those areas. And they know if they're going to commit a crime like this, where to go and where to, unfortunately dump bodies. They're very, very, it's their backyard, so they know exactly, the terrain and what's covered and what's not.
It's so scary to think that these people would be so familiar with it. As you said, a place that they know, okay, yeah, I can torture someone here. I can dump a body here. That is just crazy to me. The other part of this too, one of the reasons why we're talking about our story is that the victim was a celebrity, famous, a singer. People knew who he was. And according to the reports I've seen, he was kind of intercepted or kidnapped following a concert. I'm wondering if that makes it more difficult, the fact that we have a high profile person who you can easily determine where they're going to be. For instance, if there's tour dates, okay, we know he's going to be performing in this city at this time. If he's promoting it on social media, yep, I'm going to be here. Does that make it kind of easier for these people to target him?
Sure it is. And me and you have done shows about, the prominence of getting on social media and telling someone where everything is. Now, a concert is going to be a high profile event. I got that. But like you said, it makes it easier for these perpetrators to just plan something out because it's not a guess. They know exactly where they're going to be, when they're going to be leaving, and probably the route that they're going to take out of there. It's not a guessing game. They're very well aware of that. And these groups just prey on this. And the fact that he's well known also plays into this, Sierra, because not only is it a message to the people around him, it's a message to other people going, hey, if we can get someone like this, we can get you too.
That's so scary to think about because earlier when you were answering one of my questions, you mentioned it could be something so small, so simple that someone said or did, and they might not even realize that they were angering this sort of gang and that retaliation could be on the forefront. So that is just so scary to think that other people could be involved in this. And actually, that's what we saw here too. His manager was involved. He ended up dying after all of this too. So I'm wondering if this is the gang that we're talking about, that we're assuming that they are the ones who are the perpetrators here in this case. Would they just go for whoever was surrounding the person that they wanted their target? If he happened to be with his manager, they just took the manager too so that there would be no witnesses?
100%. That's a game plan. Where they have a plan. This wasn't just, okay, let's rush an area and grab this guy. This was well planned out where they were going to go and where this was going to end up. And probably the plan was whoever's with him we're taking, or we're just going to kill at the scene. One of those two things was going to happen, and they just chose to grab both of them because why have any witnesses? And that's, part of the plan, unfortunately.
When I'm thinking about the concert or a celebrity, oftentimes I think about like a bodyguard or security who are there to ensure the safety of not only the concert goers, but also the person, the singer, the band, whoever it may be. Is that something you think investigators would look at, whether there was some sort of lapse in security, whether the security guard had their back turned, or there wasn't even a security guard at all?
Right. The security of the event was probably there. And that's why these people probably know that he doesn't have a bodyguard or security team around him, which makes it even easier. That's why you wait till he's away from the venue to, perpetrate this crime. And, so I don't know if there's going to be any, they're going to look into it, obviously, but the main security is going to be at the event, and it's going to be up to that principal whether they have a personal security team or not. And in this case, he chose not to or didn't have one in place. So it makes it easier for the bad guys.
It's so sad, the bad guys. I think that's exactly what it is in this case. Talking about moving them away from this concert venue and off into that rural area where they eventually were killed. Ahead of that, there was torture, at least according to the reports. And we don't have to get into like gruesome specifics in any way, but me trying to wrap my brain around it, I'm wondering what this was for. I mean, sometimes in movies, we see there was some sort of torture incident to get privileged information out of the person. But in this case, they ended up killing him anyway. So why go through with the torture?
Well, it depends what the conversation was before, that murder happened. What was talked about, what information was even discussed, and what's the motive behind it. No one's really sure of that right now, whether it's a money grab, whether it's influence or whatever it might be. So no one's really sure of the motive behind it. Yes, we have the one group taking care of him and supporting him and all that, but that may just be a really small part of this.
You were talking about motive there, and that really is the question mark that we still have. Why would something like this happen? We're all wondering what it is. And we mentioned the manager before too. He unfortunately did pass away eventually, but at first he was alive. He was alert and he told people, yeah, we were, intercepted. There were multiple people. How important is that testimony, not only to determine the motive, but what happened and who might have been involved?
Oh, it's enormous because he's the only eyewitness. So you're going to rely on a lot of what he says and what you were able to get from him before he did die. And that is all so very important because, again, the media, no matter where you are, no matter what country you're in, is only going to, put out what's attractive for you to read, the integral parts of what that conversation took place, and who he named and where locations were. The police are probably holding on pretty tight to because you don't want to get that out there until you're ready to act on it. So what we both heard or read may be a very small part of what he actually said.
In doing the research for this, I saw that as well. I mean, there were a couple of key points of information, but a lot of holes or question marks too. And you said, and I think we've talked about this in other conversations too, that sometimes investigators like to keep this information to themselves until the appropriate time to reveal it. Why might that be, that there would be some sort of appropriate time down the line, and right now they don't want to just divulge everything?
Well, being this part of the country and the lawlessness that's out there, the corruption part of it, you don't know who's on whose side, who's leaking information, who's working for who. So the overall part of the investigation takes on a completely different meaning. So the people who are, on board and on the right side of the law are going to keep really close the information that they put out there because they probably don't trust a lot of people.
I have to bring up cell phones because it's something we talk about in almost every interview because it's relevant. Everyone has a cell phone. This victim was very active on social media, had a lot of followers. We talked about the social media side of things, which of course would be on your phone, but there's also data of who you're talking to, where your phone is based on satellites or towers, whatever it may be. Do you think that investigators then would be zooming in on his cloud, his phone, if possible? But also to counter, we're talking about professional gang members here. Would they know, let's get rid of that cell phone right away?
Yeah, they can get rid of it, but the data is still going to be there if they have the capability of accessing it. So, the locations and pinpointing where they were, and on top of, other conversations that the victim might have had with someone about a threat or threat streams, or, hey, I was contacted by this person. There's a, just trove of information that could be on people's phones today. As you know, everyone has one. That's everyone's life. Everyone, yeah, everything's on there. So, they're going to go through every single part of what they can retrieve of his, social media footprint or digital footprint.
And I know we talk about it in every single case, but it is truly so valuable. I mean, I have my phone literally on my lap right now. We have them with us at all times. So hopefully they do get some good information from that or the manager's phone, whatever they can. However, this case does kind of seem uphill to me, at least from the outset, because we still have a lot of question marks. What do you think would be next in the investigation?
Oh, that's a great question. Because again, the problem is where it is. And the problem is the power that these criminal gangs have and the influence they have and the corruption down there. So your guess is as good as mine, Sierra, where this is going to go, if it's going to go anywhere, which would be really sad if the corruption part of this gets wrapped up into this investigation, because you do have two people who are dead and two people who were tortured and murdered, and the perpetrators paying the price for that should be on everyone's mind. But in that area, who knows, you hope for the best outcome, but anything is possible down there, even on the bad side of it.
We do hope for the best outcome, that there is some sort of resolution to all of this soon. Tom Smith, thank you for coming on with us and walking us through the case so far.
Always a pleasure, Sierra. Thank you so much.
The murders of both Zair Guette and his manager are still under investigation. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Zair Gillespie.